Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Shavonne and welcome. I'd love it if you went ahead and hit the subscribe button and click that notification bell. That way you don't miss out on any of my crazy wild story times or my eyeshadow tutorials. Also, if you haven't already, go over to Instagram and follow me at Shavonne.Ritchie and my business page at Too Lavish Here. Also, everything will be listed down in the description box, my links and everything, in order to follow me. So today is a story time. And this is a story time about when I was attacked by a wild animal. So this all basically starts pretty much almost immediately after I moved back from New Orleans. I moved back to Dallas, and so I was going to school full-time. I was taking occupational therapy courses, and I was also working full-time. So, and I lived in a little small tiny apartment. I really didn't know anybody because it had been about 10 plus years since I had been back to Dallas. So all my friends have pretty much grown up, got married, moved on, did their own thing. So I really didn't know anybody in Dallas. So I was kind of lonely or whatnot. So I thought, well, I should get a pet. But I knew I couldn't. I wanted a dog initially. I wanted a dog. I knew I didn't have time for a dog. So I thought, you know, I'd get a cat. I like all types of animals. I've had flying squirrels. I got a miniature, I got a dwarf lobster and a fiddler crab in my tank over here. So I love all kinds of little creatures, animals, and everything like that. So I decided I would find a cat. So there's this one specific cat that I really wanted to get because they said it had a lot of dog-like traits to it. So I thought, okay, why not get a cat who is pretty independent and then also be like a dog? So and this cat was like $8 grand. I don't know what I was thinking. So I spoke to one of my friends from New Orleans, and she said, well, why don't you adopt? You know, just adopt an animal. You shouldn't get them from breeders. A lot of times they're puppy mills or cat meals or whatever like that. They're crossbred and all kinds of stuff. Like, she had all kinds of things to say about I shouldn't get an actual cat from a breeder. So, and I've had dogs and cats that I've adopted from the Humane Society and things like that. So I thought about it and I was like, okay, so I'm gonna start looking for cats to adopt. So I saw this cat, wild animal. I saw this cat and she was absolutely gorgeous. I'm gonna post a picture of her. If I don't post a picture of her, I'll just show it to you on my phone. Okay, so I'm gonna post a picture of Sadie, but if I'm not able to post a picture, I'm just going to show it to you off my Instagram. If you ain't already following me on Instagram, you go on over to Shavonne.Ritchie and follow me on Instagram, honey. Okay, well, this is Sadie. So this is Sadie, and she is part tabby and part calico. And if you know anything about those two breeds, they have a lot of personality. They're very spunky. They could be hard-headed. Me, being naive, didn't know that. But anyways, on to the story. So I see this cat, and they have a video of her online, and she's doing all these tricks that dogs do. Like, she'd roll over for treats. She'd play fetch and everything. I was like, okay, that's like a cat dog. It's like, that's what I need. And she's absolutely beautiful. And so I called the lady. I'm going to go ahead and say her name because she should have never gave me this dang cat. But I'm not going to say her name, but she's called the Dallas Cat Lady. The Dallas Cat Lady. And so I spoke to her about Sadie, and I said, oh, she's absolutely gorgeous, you know. She's like, well, Sadie, she doesn't do well with other animals or small children. I said, that won't be a problem. You know, I work full-time. I go to school full-time. I said, I just don't want to feel alone in my apartment. I really don't know anybody yet. I just moved back from New Orleans. So she's like, oh, she'd be a perfect match for you. She'd be a perfect match for you. So I spoke to this woman on the phone. She's like, okay, I'll be at PetSmart. I think it was like 9 something at night, and I had just moved back to Dallas. New Orleans is a city, but it's a very small city, and the traffic has nothing on Dallas. So I'm driving, I think it was uptown, might have been a PetSmart uptown. So I'm driving, I can't see, this Jesus take the wheel when I'm driving at night, honey, because I can't see anything with all those headlights in my face. So I get in my car and I'm driving. I'm like, I'm gonna pick up Sadie cat. I got me a new friend, but I was so excited about this cat. I had bought a carrier, I had bought litter box, I had bought everything she needed. I drove all the way uptown, dark. It was so dark, like I couldn't see nothing. And then they have construction going at the same time, so I don't know how I made it there safely and made it back home. And I had my GPS going, so I finally get there. And a lady comes out, and I see other people adopting cats. And so she's like, oh, let me go grab Sadie. She's in a carrier. I said, okay. So she goes and she grabs, she pulls her out. And she opens the little door, and because I want to reach in there and grab her, you know. I look in there, and this cat's eyes, they literally look like saucers. The cat, and she's like, you want to pick her up? And I'm thinking, that cat looks like she's going to get me. And I told her, I was like, you sure she's friendly? She's like, oh yeah, she's friendly, she's friendly. And one thing I know about cats is when their eyes, I don't know if any other animals are the same way, but when their eyes are like saucers, that pretty much is an indication that they are not comfortable with being around human beings or any other animals, aka they're wild. So she's like, oh no, you can hold her, you can hold her. I said, she's not gonna bite me, are you? I said, she's not gonna bite me, is she? She's like, oh no, you can hold her. So she pulls her out of the carrier and she hands her to me, and I'm like, okay. She stuck her head underneath. She ended up sticking her head underneath my arm, and I thought, oh, she's cuddling me. Dummy. Oh, she's cuddling me. She loves me already. So that was a picture that I showed you. The lady's like, let me take a picture of you. So she took a picture of me adopting her. And I told her, I was like, well, I have a carrier. She's like, oh, we'll just put her in a box. Which to me is kind of strange. It looked like a giant hamster box that you fold down, but I was like, whatever. So she put her in a box, and I got in the car, and I purchased a couple more toys and stuff for her while I was at PetSmart. I got in the car, Jesus take the wheel again, heading back to my house. We get to my apartment, and I wanted her to feel comfortable. And I know, like, when you adopt an animal, you don't know what life they had before, so you don't want to be in their face. You want to give them their space, let them check everything out. So I went ahead and closed my bedroom door because I wanted to keep her in the living room and the kitchen area till she got used to the small space, and then I would let her migrate into my bedroom and other places. So I brought her home, I took her toys out, and I tossed them around the floor and stuff like that. And then I opened the box, and I put some treats down there. So while I put the treats down there, I let her take her time to get out of the box, roam around. And then the whole process while she's doing that, I'm fixing her litter box, and I'm getting her bowl, her water, and food. I get that done. I come in the living room, I'm like, Sadie cat, Sadie cat. This cat is gone. Like, she has vanished. So I thought, okay, well, maybe she's scared. I'm going to give her some time to herself. It was late at night. I had school tomorrow. So I went ahead and I went to my bedroom and I shut the door. Went to sleep, got up in the morning, didn't see her. I went straight to school. Was at school all day, came home, didn't see her. Took a shower, got dressed, went to work, was at work for like 8 hours, came home, didn't see her. I started to notice after day 3 that no water had been sipped out of her bowl, no food had been eaten out of her bowl, and a litter box had never been used. So I get this phone call from one of my friends who this company had sent him to the UK, so he was stationed in the UK for about, I believe, a year and a half or so, working for General Motors. And so I was talking to him on the phone. He had just started dating this lady from Tennessee or whatnot. And he's like, yeah, you know, I've been in the UK, blah, blah. I'm about to come back with my girlfriend. We haven't been able to find a place to stay right now. Is it okay if you pick us up from the airport, and can we stay at your apartment for like 2 days? I'm like, yeah, that's cool. So I'm telling him, I'm like, I adopted this cat. He was like, oh, that's good, that's good. At least you're not there by yourself, blah, blah, blah. I said, but I can't find her. And he says, what are you talking about? I said, I went to PetSmart. I adopted this cat. Her name is Sadie. I was like, I haven't seen this cat in a week. It had literally been a week since I've seen this cat. I said, there's no food been eaten. No water has been sipped. The litter box has not been used for a week. He starts laughing. He's like, are you sure you're not crazy? Are you sure are you sure that you didn't just manifest in your head that you adopted this cat? And I'm like, I swear I adopted a cat. I have her shot record sitting here on the counter. He's like, well, maybe you got multiple personalities and you just typed up this shot record. And I'm like, no. I literally got her vet records. I adopted a cat. I had Jesus take the wheel moment to go get her and back home. And this cat has not, he's like, you have not seen this cat for a week. I said, no. He's like, you have a wild animal. And I was like, what are you talking about? PetSmart wouldn't allow somebody to adopt wild animals. So I told him, I was like, yeah, when y'all fly from the airport, I'll come pick y'all up. Y'all can stay here for a couple days or whatever till you get wherever you need to go or whatever. And that's fine. So I go pick them up from the airport and they come and we're sitting there on my sofa in love seat and we're talking about this cat. And his girlfriend's laughing and he's like, she's crazy. I was like, I am not crazy. So he ended up sleeping on the sofa and she ended up sleeping on the love seat. So I gave him blankets and stuff and I gave her like a big white comforter. So I said, okay, good night guys, I'm going to bed. So I go to bed. I wake up in the morning. I didn't have school or work that day, so that was a good thing. I wake up in the morning, I come out, and I notice the comforter that his girlfriend had on her has this big yellow stain all across her chest. So we're gonna call her Marsha, and we're gonna call him John. So I go over to John, I'm like, hey John. He's like, what? I was like, what's on your girlfriend? Like, what's on the blanket? And he looks, he's like, what is that? I was like, I don't know. So we kind of bent down to smell. I was like, it smells like pee. He was like, yeah, it smells like urine for sure. So we wake her up. I'm like, hey, Marsha. She's like, yeah. I was like, I think the cat peed on your comforter. She was like, what? So she jumps up and I run and shut my bedroom door. I'm like, the cat is in the living room. She's underneath either the sofa or the love seat. His girlfriend's like, I don't want no parts of this. I'm going out on the balcony to smoke a cigarette. I'm scared. Y'all can deal with this wild animal. So she goes outside. She's smoking her cigarette. And I tell John, I'm like, hey, get at the end of the love seat and I'll get this love seat. We're going to lift it up. Because she's under. He's like, I'm scared. He literally looked at me. He's like, I'm scared. I'm scared, Shavonne. He's like, because if you haven't seen this cat in a week, this is not a domesticated animal. This is like a freaking bobcat. If the cat hasn't eaten any food, hasn't drank any water, hasn't used a litter box, this is a wild animal you have in your house. It's not a pet. You can't cuddle with this cat. This cat is going to eat you in your sleep. So I said, whatever. I took pictures with her. She was cuddling with me and he's rolling his eyes. So we lift up the love seat and she's not under there. I said, she's underneath the sofa. He's like, you mean to tell me this cat has lived a week underneath a sofa and still, like I said before, having to take a sip of water, ate any food or used litter box? He's like, I'm telling you, it's like a bobcat. I'm like, no, Sadie, she loves me. She does tricks and blah, 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 blah. He's like, okay. I said, get at that end of the sofa and we'll get this and we're going to lift it up. His girlfriend's looking at the balcony, like chain smoking this cigarette, like she's stressed and she's shaking her head. So I lift up my end, I don't see her. He lifts up his end and he slams it down. He's like, Shavonne. He said, I'm real scared right now. I was like, why are you scared? He's like, because her eyes are like this. He's like, she's literally flat like a pancake underneath this sofa, and she's been there for a week. He says, I am terrified. So I tell him, like, oh, no, she loves me. She's just nervous. She's just nervous, John. He's like, no, I'm scared. I'm like, okay, stop being a big old baby, and we're going to flip this sofa up, and I'm going to get her. He's like, I'm flipping this sofa, and I'm running. I was like, that's fine. So we flip the sofa, and we jump. When we flip the sofa, she comes off and under that sofa like a bat out of hell. She jumps on the couch. He screams like a girl. He's like, ah! And he runs towards the patio, and he's standing up against the glass like this. And Sadie jumps on the counter, the bar of my kitchen, and then she jumps on top of the refrigerator. And me thinking like we had this connection, because, you know, we had pictures taken at PetSmart, and she was all cuddling. So I thought. She jumps on top of the refrigerator. So I go in the kitchen and I'm like, Sadie. And she has her head turned because at the time, do I have cabinets like, I don't have cabinets like that here. But at the time, the cabinets I had before, it was like, I don't know if they're called hanging cabinets because you had like maybe like a 2-foot space on the top of them and they went like an L. So she was on top of the refrigerator and she was turned looking at the top of the cabinets, I guess to see where she was going to go next. So she didn't see me putting my hand up there. And I was like, Abigail, oh, not Abigail, that's my rabbit. I'm like, Sadie, it's okay. And I stick my hand up there and he's like, and it was literally like slow motion. He's like, no. And when I stick my hand up there, she turns around and it was like someone slammed a car door on my middle finger. It was this, I remember, it was this, I think I still even got a scar on it. Like someone slammed a car door on my finger and it was locked. She turned around and bit me so hard, like I couldn't even scream. You know, like when the pain is so bad that you can't even cry. And she was just looking at me with these huge eyes, and he was like, oh my God, oh my God. And finally I was like, okay, I gotta get, and blood is like squirting everywhere. And I'm like, I gotta get my finger out of her mouth. So I ended up just yanking it. And after she let go, when I yanked it, she let go, she jumped up on top of the counter, the cabinets, and ran to the side over where I had my cups and glasses, and she just roosted there. And there's like blood everywhere. And one thing also is, I was raised with cats and I never had a problem with them. But as I've gotten older, I developed like an allergy towards them. So the whole time I had this cat, I had to go get allergy shots. So with her biting me, whatever the fluids in her saliva was like an allergic reaction that I had. Remember that. So she jumps up on the counter, and I'm usually like, I usually clot really, really quick. That's one thing my doctors always told me. They said, if you were ever in a bad car accident, knock on wood, you probably wouldn't bleed to death because I clot really, really quickly. But when she bit me, it would not stop bleeding. And I ended up like washing it, putting alcohol on it. I had like 4 or 5 Hello Kitty Band-Aids wrapped around my finger, trying to like put compression on it so it stopped bleeding. And so he ended up running outside my patio with his girlfriend. And so after that, I went and took, like I said, I took care of my wound or whatnot. And they stayed one more day. They were terrified. They stayed one more day. And I went to school the next day, the occupational therapy classes and stuff I was taking. And I had 2 respiratory therapists in my class. And I came to school and my middle finger literally looked like a blow pop. Like I have skinny fingers anyway. This middle finger literally looked like a blow pop. Like I had like a big old, like the whole tip of it was swollen. And I remember being in class and my 2 friends, they were respiratory therapists, they were like, Shavonne, what's wrong with your finger? I was like, oh, my cat bit me. And one of them was like, it looks like you're having an allergic reaction. And I said, it feels really tight, like it's going to explode. And he was like, you need to go to the emergency room and get a shot. You need to get an antibiotic shot. He said, because it will explode if you don't. So I ended up eventually going to the emergency room and them giving me a shot in my finger, which took the swelling down because it was so tight. Like it didn't really hurt. It just ached and it was getting bigger and bigger. So I went ahead and got that done. And my friend and his girlfriend ended up getting a hotel, and then they started looking for homes or whatnot. But after that, I waited a little while, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of scared. So the next few days, I would go in my bedroom. I always kept my bedroom door shut because I was like, I don't want this wild animal in my bedroom while I'm sleeping. I'm scared. She might attack me while I'm asleep. So I would go to bed and shut my door. And then sometimes, like one day, I forgot to shut my door, and I thought she was in my room, so I slipped the blankets over my head. Oh my gosh, that was horrible. And then come to find out she had burrowed a hole up into my box spring and was living in my box spring at night. So I couldn't get her out. I didn't know, she was like stealth mode. I didn't know when she would come and go because she was so, like, she was like a panther. I didn't know where she was at any time. I knew when I was awake, at least I'd have a chance to defend myself if she came at me. But but I didn't know where she was every time I got ready to go to sleep. And I'm like, okay, she's living in my box spring, and I'm terrified. So I'd always sleep in the blankets like this. But anyway, they got to the point where I was so scared of this cat. I was like, I had her for probably about 6 months. And I thought to myself, I'm never going to be able to pet this cat. I'm never going to be able to pick her up. I need to call the Dallas cat lady. So I ended up calling her. And I was like, listen, I can't, like, this cat has bitten me. I had to go to the emergency. Well, first of all, I said the cat attacked me. And she's like, oh, I hope it wasn't too bad. What the heck you think gonna happen when a wild cat bites you? It's not gonna be a nibble. I know that. She straight crunched me. So I told her, I was like, well, no, I'm slightly allergic to cats anyways. I said, she bit me so hard, it's like slamming a car door on my finger. I had to go to the emergency room, get an antibiotic shot. She's like, oh. I said, and I finally told her, I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to pet this cat. I was like, I understand that I work full time, I go to school full time. I wanted to have an animal or something in my house where I didn't feel alone. I said, but I would still like to eventually pet my animal or pick it up. I said, I don't think that's possible. So she got really upset. She's like, please don't make us come get her. If we come get her, we're going to have to put her down. This is her 3rd strike. And when she said that, I didn't have the heart to do that, because I'm the type of person where I have a lot of love and compassion for people and animals, as well as creatures. And when she told me that, I was like, I'm not going to do that to her. Like, we're just going to have to work it out. So after I got off the phone with her, I went on Facebook, Dallas Cat Lady. Y'all look her up, Dallas Cat Lady. So I I go on her Facebook page and I started scrolling. And I see Sadie has been adopted 2 other times. And I see this guy, he posts, he's like, I talked to this woman. I told her we had an old senior citizen German Shepherd and we had a newborn baby. Well, not really a newborn, he was a toddler. I think he was crawling around or something. And he said, I spoke to her and I told her, I said, we have a senior citizen German Shepherd. We have a baby who's a crawler. Is this cat going to be okay to introduce it to our family? He said, the woman was like, oh yeah, she'd be fabulous. She'd be great. He said, we got this cat and it was like hell on earth. Sadie, the cat that I adopted, the 3rd strike cat. He said the cat ended up attacking their dog, ran behind the refrigerator. He reached back to try to grab the cat. The cat viciously attacked him, ran around the refrigerator, and then jumped on their son, and then bit their son as well. And I thought to myself, what the heck? So I kept scrolling, and then I see her when she was adopted the first time, and the people said we immediately had the lady come back and get her. They had to get a net to scoop her up because we tried to go to sleep the night we had her there, and she viciously attacked us while we were asleep in bed. So I'm thinking to myself, I have a literally a wild animal roaming around my house. So I went ahead, like I said, I gave her another chance. I didn't want to have her put down because I just didn't have it in my heart to do that. And the lady texted me the next day, and she's like, well, I hope you decided to keep Sadie. I hope you decided to keep Sadie, blah, blah, blah. Like I told you before, it's her last chance. And a woman was sending me pictures. She sent me all types of pictures of cats that had their ears clipped. And usually when you see a cat that have their ears clipped, they were strays or barn cats, and they clipped their ears to show they've been neutered or spaded. So she's like, yeah, I'm so sorry I didn't give you all the details on Sadie. When she was a feral kitten up until she was 4 months old. This cat was like a year and a half, and she was still feral. And then she was sending me pictures of these other cats. She's like, yeah, and they all had their ears clipped. She's like, these are other cats that we have. We're getting ready for adoption. She's like, this cat we call Witchy, and it was a Russian blue, you know, the gray cats. And its ear was, it looked like that cat off that Stephen King movie Strays. I kid you not. She had this cat sit in her lap. She's like, we just now got him to where he would sit in my lap. I'm like, this lady is wrangling barn cats and adopting them out. Like, that is not okay, especially if someone has elderly animals and children. That is not okay. So she sent me a picture. Oh, this is Witchy. I just now got him to be able to lay in my lap. Usually when we get these cats that are feral, I put them in a bathroom and they live in there and they sleep in the bathtub until they kind of calm down, and then we let them in other parts. Like, you're wrangling barn cats. They're barn cats for a reason. They're meant to be wild. They're meant to catch the vermin on people's ranches and farms. And you're wrangling barn cats and then adopting them out to families? It makes no sense to me. But anyway, so I ended up keeping Sadie for about 2 years, aka Satan. I kept her for about 2 years. I loved her. It finally got to the point where she would allow me only in the mornings when I'd get up and I'd go to the bathroom and I'd come back out and I'd put her food in her bowl. She'd go around my leg and she'd let me pet her twice. That was it. 2 years she let me pet her twice. I got her a little shelf thing that hooked to the windowsill so she could jump up there and lounge in the sun by the window and watch all the squirrels and birds in the tree. But it was kind of like the relationship we had was like, you stay in your lane, I'll stay in my lane. I'd see her walk by every now and again. If I had special treats, she'd come do a little trick for a treat, and then she'd be gone. So we had this understanding that you don't mess with me, I won't mess with you. And then when I got ready to move, my friends were like, well, what are you going to do about this cat? They're like, you can't even pick. I had only picked her up twice in the 2 years I had her. So my friends were like, okay, you're about to move to a bigger apartment. How are you going to catch this cat? And I was like, she'll come with me. They're like, no, you've only picked this cat up twice. You pet her only in the morning twice. And then y'all just, like, for 2 years... And they were like, she's just using you for food. I was like, it doesn't even matter even if she is. But it's beside the point. So I was like, shit, I'll get her. Don't worry about it. So when I finally decided to move, I had some friends come help me move. And I ended up paying extra days because I knew she was going to be nervous when the movers came in and started moving because it was people she didn't know. And anytime I had friends over, she would just hide. She was nowhere to be seen. She didn't know them. She didn't want no parts of it. She didn't want nothing to do with them. So when I knew the movers were coming, I knew it was going to take her a couple days just to calm down. So I had moved everything out of my apartment and moved it to another apartment. And I had paid for an extra 3 days or so. And I literally left the patio door open. So if she wanted to run away, because that's where she belonged anyways, in a wild, she was not domesticated. And there was a tree right there, so I was like, she could jump off the rails onto the tree and she could be gone. And where I lived at the time was beautiful as well, because it had like where I used to run and stuff was like a nature trail, and you could run through the city. So you couldn't even hear the cars. You would run underneath the bridges and stuff that the cars went over, but it had like man-made ponds, a stock of catfish. They had a couple of parks. You could run to the volleyball center. It was like 3 miles from my apartment to the Walmart, and you didn't even know that you were running through the city. So I was like, well, if she wants to run away, this is her perfect time. She's in a good area. There's plenty of like nature and stuff like that. So I wasn't really worried about it. So I left the patio door open for about the 3 days, and she never ran away. She still sat up on top of that cabinet like a panther. Like, my friend John was like, I'm scared to get a glass to get something to drink because there's a bobcat up there staring at me. I'm scared she's going to attack me. And it was I literally had that same fear there for a while. But anyway, so by that 3rd day, it was probably about 10 something at night, and my friends were like, hey, we're going to get the last boxes, blah, blah. I was like, well, let's go by Walmart and let's get a fishing net. So that way, at least we can scoop her up. So I went up there, I finished vacuuming, cleaning up whatever else I needed to do. They took out the last few things out of my apartment down the stairs, and I lived on the 2nd floor at the time. So I had an empty U-Haul box sitting there. So our plan was we're going to scoop her in the net, put her in a box, take her over to my apartment because it was just right around the corner, let her go, be wild till she calmed down. So I go downstairs. They're like, okay, well, you got everything done. Don't worry about it. We got the fishing net. Go downstairs. We'll get her, put her in a box, and we're done. So I shut the patio door and locked it because I was going to drop the keys in the drop box. I go downstairs and I put the last stuff onto the trailer, the flatbed trailer, and I see Sadie jumping up against the sliding door patio, like hitting the glass, like it's hard. Like I can literally hear boom, 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 and I'm looking at her, and I'm thinking, oh my God, she knows that the patio is open. She just never ran away, and then when she got ready to flee, she can't get out now. And I was thinking to myself, I wish I would have left it open. So next thing I know, the front door opens and I see the net go down. And so the net goes down over and I see her underneath the net. And it was like she sliced that fishing net like it was a hot knife on butter. I've never seen anything like it. She just said swoosh. The net was wide open. She jumped out, and instead of running down the stairs, she ran up the stairs. So she went to the 3rd floor, and then when she went to the 3rd floor, she leaps towards me. So she's like this, coming at me, and I'm screaming, oh my God, oh my God. And she hits the rocks, and she's gone. Like literally just like, it was like lightning. And my friends came out of like, we tried. And the only thing, like, I think, like I said, I think before she belonged in a while, they should never try to catch her. They should never try to wrangle her and adopt her out to anybody. That was her life. That's what she was comfortable with. And the only thing I pray is that when she jumped off that 3rd floor and hit those rocks, that she's okay. If she doesn't have any injuries, it would be a miracle. And if she doesn't have any injuries, I wish her the best life. But the moral to this story is, I know that people always say you should adopt animals and things like that to give them a chance when people give up on them. But it's not always for everyone. When it comes to adopting animals, I don't think there's a problem with adopting animals. You should just be very cautious. Make sure you do your research. I've had animals I've adopted that have been absolutely amazing. I've also had animals from breeders that have been absolutely amazing. You just got to find that pet that fits in your family and make sure you do your research on the breeders and also on adoption agencies. And yeah, I hope y'all guys are enjoying the new year. And like I said before in my last video, have your vision boards done, because I have mine done already. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow me on Instagram at Shavonne.Ritchie and my business page at toolavishhair.com. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. Click that big thumbs up. Also hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss out any of my crazy wild story times. All information will be linked down below in the description box. And I hope y'all guys enjoyed this story. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.